All right, thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the crisis in the state between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his predecessor, former Governor Nyesom Wike, who is the Minister of the FCT. And we still have our guest in the studio, lawyer and public affairs analyst, Fred Nzako, speaking with us on that. And before we went on the break, we were talking about the role of Siminalayi Fubara in this matter. He should have known what he was getting to. Like you mentioned earlier, the forms were bought for him and every other person, like former Governor Nyesom Wike said. So he should have known what he was getting into. Why is all accusing fingers now pointing at Nyesom Wike? If he had not agreed, would we find ourselves in this situation?
You know, it is a case of the skeletons they kept in the cupboard are now coming out. If there wasn't a crisis, we wouldn't have known that nobody ever bought form, that they were all spoon-fed by Wike. Wike bought forms for them. And of course, in political campaigns, buying a form is the elementary aspect of it. Mm-hmm. You have to campaign, you have to spend money, you have to do a whole lot of things.
Which the former governor must have done.
Which, of course, Wike must have done. Wike may have done for them, mm-hmm. because they have not come out to even debunk his assertion that none of them bought forms. So if, as an aspirant, then they didn't even do the basic elementary thing that they were supposed to do, in which case, even the secondary ones that were attendant to the election, that they didn't also do. In that case, then we can now use the money of Rivers State to campaign for all the people that he now called his structure. And of course, it's very shameful that even those distinguished, in quote, men in the Senate, none of them bought their forms. The ones in the House of Assembly. No, House of Reps, none of them bought their forms. So that means that Wike acted as a big headmaster that was just dishing out authority.
And they were ready to be his students.
And they were not just his students, but his, if you say student, it will be an understatement. His children, in a manner of speaking. They were ready to be his children.
Some would to use the word puppets.
Puppets. They're his puppets. And that is where it becomes worrisome because of the nature of politics we play in Nigeria. We should, at least by now, have grown and developed into politics of principles and ideology. If, for example, Fubara, having been very close to Wike, I agree with you that if he knew what he was going into, if he had principles, why would he not jettison that idea? Why would he not decline? And why would he not be a man of himself right from day one? So what it now means is that he calmed and piped low, grabbed the seat of power, and then did his own buga. You remember this song, Lo, 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 Bugao. He went low and bugad. And that bugaring is not going down well with Nyesom Wike. But of course, I had earlier said that I do not understand how you stand a man as a governor, and you surround him with men.
He must have agreed
with men
that he couldn't have, for him.
As at the time those men and women were appointed, he would have Fubara possibly was still afraid because his matter was still either at the tribunal or in the court. Mm-hmm. All right? So now that he felt he has gained some grounds, of course, the tribunal and the Court of Appeal have all given him kudos, authority to continue as the victor. Yeah, but you don't know whether the other party went to Supreme Court.
You understand? One of them has even stepped down.
So the other party may not have gone to. Maybe there has been a termination of litigation on his own side. And then he now had to sit back and ask himself, what kind of governor am I? When I cannot give instruction to my commissioner, and my commissioner will require a confirmation from my predecessor, as my Oga, an instruction given by existing governor. Oh, goodness. There's no way that would have worked. So we knew that this cataclysm was going to come, this feud was going to come.
Oh, you knew?
Yes, we knew. Of course we
timing,
knew.
but what about
But the timing is what surprised everybody. We thought, at least, we didn't know it would come this soon. It came so soon. Because knowing the kind of forceful person that Nyesom Wike is, and knowing the kind of people he has surrounded Siminalayi with, and knowing the fact that Siminalayi himself has been just kept there on the wall as a photograph in the offices of government offices in Rivers State.
Okay.
Sometimes the people will want to bring the photograph down and let the feet of the governor touch the floor. It is that touching of the floor that has created this crisis.
Fred, behind the scene, we're talking about how this whole crisis is seemingly generating different dimensions as we speak. We're seeing the ethnic coloration to this matter, where the Ijaw people are showing some support for the governor. But when you look at it critically, the dimension that this whole matter is taking, how concerning is it for you?
I feel very concerned, and a lot of Nigerians also feel very concerned because of the nature the crisis is taking. Now it has moved from issues between one man and another, which they must have reached an agreement in the comfort of their privacy. Today, it has engulfed the whole of Rivers State, and ethnic and tribal sentiments have started coming in. It is now a case of, oh, we allow the Ikwere people to govern for 3 terms, Odili, Pito Odili, Essential Pito Odili, and Ikwere man, Rotimi Amaechi, and Ikwere man, Nyesom Wike, and Ikwere man. 24 years. And now, the only one that we were bringing, an Ijaw man, you don't even allow him a breather. And the Ijaw people now feel very incensed. And of course, to some extent, they've been asking the question, what has our son done wrong that you have not even allowed him 1 year of leadership? And they have now flooded themselves onto the streets in support of Simi, and you don't blame them. And where it now worries those of us outside Rivers State, and of course Nigeria, is that Nyesom Wike is a minister, current minister, serving in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's office, cabinet. And in President Tinubu's voice, that it's not only that he's his minister, that he's an advisor, in which case that he has the ears of Mr. President, which means that Mr. President can always consider anything that comes from Wike. But Nigerians are now asking, Mr. President, as far as this reverse issue is concerned, handle with care. Because anything that happens to Simi, the Ijaw people will feel and believe that Mr. President had given Wike federal might from Abuja to come and oppress Simi. Recall that Simi had said sometime that police shot tear gas at him and fired water cannon at him.
Yes.
That statement is very heavy. Because what it means is that even as the chief security officer of the state,
It's not safe.
he's not safe. And if he is not safe, he will now surround himself with his ethnic militia. And the risk is that we may go back to the pre-Yaradua era when the Ijaw people will now begin to want to hurt Nigeria. Something that started from their locality may escalate to hurting Nigeria, because when they feel that their own son is not being allowed to exercise his executive power as governor on account, and when they feel it is the optics, the perception that is very important. Whenever they feel that Mr. President has given Wike the power and authority to oppress their own son, they will want to get back to Mr. President through the pipelines.
What kind of presidential intervention are you looking at? Some people have also called for the House of Reps or the National Assembly to intervene somewhat, because look at the actions of the governor so far. The budget, hastily presented and passed. And then there's also the 27 or 25 who are still meeting, who are still passing their own bills.
Yes.
What kind of intervention can the president do?
The only intervention the president can do, or rather should do, is to adhere to the rule of law and not give any undue favoritism to anybody. The perception is that because Wike is very close to him, both physically and psychologically, they all sit in Federal Executive Council, they are there in Abuja. It will take at least a few hours before Simi will take off from Port Harcourt to meet Mr. President in Abuja. It will take Wike a few minutes to drive into Aso Rock and give tete-a-tete with Mr. President. What Mr. President should do is to be fair and follow the rule of law. What the rule of law says is allow the Constitution to take its course. And what has the Constitution said? The Constitution has said that if you leave the party, I'm talking about the members of House of Assembly now, if you leave the party that elected you, that you flew the flag to occupy a seat, you are going to lose that seat. Wike himself had made the broadcast very many times that you cannot be given authority under the umbrella and you take it to the broom. He said so himself when he was attacking Matawale of Zamfara, when he cross-carpeted. And he said it that any day he left PDP, he will not find peace. That is politics. I don't want to go there. I'm looking at the rule of law. What has the Constitution said? The men said, the members of House of Assembly said that they left because there was crisis in PDP. Everybody in the country, apart from they themselves, everybody in the country will tell you that there's no crisis in PDP. They formulated the crisis in their own imagination and left. It is not too late for them to go back if their ego and their macabre dance of shame will allow them to go back. I believe that PDP will still accommodate them if they go back and cleanse themselves of their iniquity, political iniquity. Now, the law has also said that when it comes to quorum, Section 96 of our Constitution says that you need 1/3 of members to form quorum. But quorum is now to be qualified. This, as at now, when 25 people have left, in the eye of the law, they have resigned. They are no longer members of the House of Assembly.
But shouldn't the court determine their status? Shouldn't the court determine their status?
Of course, they have gone to court.
Yeah.
But the court has
And
not,
the Federal High Court
has not given a determination to the issue as to whether there was crisis in PDP. Because, of course, the court, they will judge based on not only the pronouncement of the Supreme Court in the matter of Abegunde in Ondo State, but also following the prescription of the Constitution in Section 109.
Right.
All right? So when you now bring the two together, you now see that it is only the court that will save the day. But the court cannot just jump out. Somebody has to approach the court for determination, and then there will be issues, there will be litigation, and then the court will now take a decision. Between now and then, in the eye of the law, prima facie eye of the law, they are no longer members of the State Assembly. And if they are no longer members of the State Assembly, that means the State Assembly of Rivers has been depleted to 5 or 6 members. When you're talking about quorum, you'll be talking about 1/3 of 5 or 1/3 of 6.
What about the other constituencies, the other local governments who are not represented?
No. Their representatives were prodigal. In the eye of the law, they were irresponsible and they abandoned their seat. They abandoned their position. It is not the duty of the governor to go and bring them to come and do their work. The legislature is different from the executive under the doctrine of separation of powers. Right? So it is the duty of the governor to come and present his budget, for example, before the legislature. The Constitution did not say before the full house of the legislature. And what is the full house? Even when you look at the full house are those who are still legitimately legislators and does not include those who have prodigally left their seats and abandoned their mandate and their authority, and it is left for them, their people, as I'm talking to you, some people have started making moves for their recall, officially, the official recall. But such move is not necessary because you don't need an official recall because they had sacked themselves, in a manner of speaking.
Well,
that is what the law has said.
PDP has approached INEC.
PDP has approached INEC.
But the courts, the Federal High Court,
there is an ex parte order from a Federal High Court restraining INEC. You see, sometimes the politicians will mess the room and wait for the court to come and clear it. And when the court tries to clear it, they say judiciary is the problem. The politicians are the problems. The politicians are the problems. They will know what is right and they will not do it. And when the judiciary tries to rein them into form, they will begin to shout, judiciary is the problem of Nigeria. In this particular one now, who is the problem? The politicians. But the court will do what they should do because they are an important aspect of our polity, of our governance structure, and our democracy. Now, if the court has, until the court makes pronouncement, of course, they suspended themselves. So they stand non-members as non-members of legislature. So the governor will continue to do legislative business with those who are members. And you cannot invoke Section 11 of the Constitution, which requires, or rather, which authorizes the National Assembly to take over legislative powers of the State Assembly when there is crisis.
Why not? Because
You cannot do so because the State Assembly is running and going. It's working. Okay. It's just that some members left their assignment, and it is not the duty of National Assembly to bring them back.
Okay.
Once the court makes pronouncement, it is only the INEC that has the authority to conduct by-election and replace them.
Well, quickly, because we have to wrap things up now. Nyesom Wike said he's open to talks with.
Of course,
where do you see that going?
I see that as political statement.
All right.
Simple political statement, because I have studied the trajectory of Wike's statements, and I have seen that he will say something in the morning and do another in the afternoon.
Okay.
The whole media is awash with such instances. So it didn't come from me. It came from Wike himself.
Let's wait to see what happens.
I can give you several instances, which you know yourself.
We'll leave the conversation here now. Fred Nzako, lawyer and public affairs analyst, thank you for your time on the program.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Right.